Hey guys, Smooth Racing here, back with a brand new video, and today we've got our GP2 2014 season preview. This is the support category for Formula 1, and we'll be going through all the drivers and teams and then giving our opinion on them and who we think is going to be winning the World Drivers' Championship in November. So let's start off then with Russian time, the reigning world champions, and they have gone for Mitch Evans and Artem Makalov. I do apologise for any of the names I do misspelt, but that's just, we'll have to get on with it. So let's start with Artem then. Well, he's a 2013 German Formula 3 runner-up, and this will be his first year in GP2, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. He's relatively unknown on the scene. I think he might have done a bit of work for Russian time in the past, but it's interesting that they've gone for him. They must see the potential in him, and of course after Russian time had such a successful year last year, they'll be wanting to emulate that and get a constructors. I think Mitch Evans is definitely one of the rising stars. I think Mark Webber has already seen that by giving him some coaching. I think they did a feature for Sky Sports last year, and I think Mitch Evans is definitely a hot prospect for the future and definitely one of the championship favourites indeed. Moving on to Carlin and Felipe Nasr, my favourite driver, is the #1 driver this year, and Julian Leal. As it was last year, great partnership. I think both of them will be really pushing each other, and I think Nasr is definitely one of the favourites for the title, as he's definitely one of my favourite drivers. Moving on to racing engineering, they've gone for Rafael Marcello, I think that's how you pronounce it, the Ferrari young driver, really good hot prospect, a really young rising star that could be definitely moving up and into Formula 1 perhaps in the up and coming years, and maybe even with Ferrari. Not many people are suggesting it, but I think if you do get a good run, because it's quite a popular thing now for drivers and particularly Formula 1 teams to have B teams. So, like Red Bull have a massive programme. I think in recent years sort of McLaren and Ferrari have managed to emulate that, and even Force India actually, which I'll get into that later. But I think last year they had who was it, Fabio Lima, who won the Drivers' Championship, so we know Racing Engineering are going to provide a good car, and Julian Leal, who has moved to Carlin. So Julian Leal didn't drive for Carlin last year, but Leal's now at Carlin, and Racing Engineering have brought in Coletti, who we saw at Rapax last year, the championship leader in the early stages, and looked, unstoppable in the early stages, and then it all kind of fell apart for him. A bit of bad luck and a really poor car. The pace of that car just dipped, dramatically at the end of the season. I think Coletti and Marciello are probably the strongest lineup on the grid, and I think they'll win the constructors' title. But I'll get into my predictions later. Dams then, probably the most well-known team on the grid. They've gone for Julian Palmer and Stefan Rello-Kelmy, a really strong partnership for them. Definitely, I think Palmer, the Brit, got a very bright future indeed, and then Kelmy also. Moving on to ART, they've gone for Takuru Azuwa, I can't pronounce his name, but the Japanese driver is from Super Formula in Japan. I haven't really watched many of the races, but I think he'll definitely be a good driver. But I don't think he'll be able to live up to his teammate, which is Stoffel Van Dorn. I'm sure many of you have heard of. He is in the McLaren Young Driver Programme. He was in Formula Renault 3.5 as Kevin Magnussen's teammate. And of course, Kevin Magnussen is in Formula 1, so there'll be a high chance if Magnussen slips up and Van Dorn has a great year, but Van Dorn could be, we could be seeing him at McLaren in future years, and definitely is a great person to put your money on for the championship. Moving on to Hilmer Motorsport, and this is a team partnered by Force India for 2014 and beyond as part of their young driver program, and they're 1 in a million or 1 in a billion, I think it is, India top stars. It's like a program where they get loads of Indian drivers and try and find the best one who'll be suitable for an F1 seat. They haven't actually signed any Indian drivers yet, but I'm sure in the future that is certainly their aim. And they've gone with Daniel Abt and Faku Regalia. Now, Daniel Abt is a very popular driver, I think, supported by a few people. I know a few YouTubers support him. So, he's a great driver. Really unlucky the past few years. He's going to be a very good driver in a really poor car. He always seems to be moving teams to a really worse team, but hopefully him and Regalia will be having good years. Rapax have gone with Adrian Clay Hobbs, my second favourite driver behind Nasr in GP2. He'll be hoping for a win or a podium, I think, with the Rapax team, who did so well last year with Stefano Coletti and Trummer, a great, quite well experienced now GP2 driver. Arden International have gone with Rene Binder and Andre Negreda. Binder was in it last year, Negreda wasn't, so they'll be hoping some good experience for Negreda and Binder, trying to build up his career and definitely, maybe even go for a win, but we'll have to see. Wins may be out of reach, but maybe in a sprint race he could pick up a victory. We'll have to see. Caterham Racing have gone with Rio Haryanto and Alexander Rossi. Alexander Rossi, the reserve for the F1 team, he'll be hoping to make an impression, because if he does, that could spell a future seat at the Caterham F1 team. Moving on to MP Motorsports, they've gone with Daniel de Jong, and are still yet to announce their second driver, so I have no idea who's that going to be at all. But Daniel de Jong, a fairly good driver, probably not one of the best drivers really on the grid, probably definitely one of the slower drivers. Expect MP Motorsport to be fighting at the back of the grid, but I think Daniel de Jong could impress. We'll have to see. But moving on to Trident, and they've gone with Johnny Giocato. I'm sure you've all heard, if you have been watching GP2 in the past few years, involved in numerous incidents, and I'm very surprised to see him actually getting a seat, because I thought his super license should have been ripped up ages ago, because he's not a very clean driver at all, and he really needs to get that fixed for 2014. And his teammate is Axel Jeffries, which is an Indy Lights driver, and he's moving to Trident with GP2, hoping to kickstart his GP2 and maybe a Formula 1 career. He obviously saw more potential in the GP2 and GP3 series than in Indy Lights. Moving on to Venezuela, GP Lazarus, and they've gone for Nathaniel Burton, raced in GP2 last year, I remember him well from last year, and his teammate also is yet to be confirmed. So it'll be interesting to see Venezuela, like MP Motorsport, fighting at the back, but still be having some good battles. And finally, Campos Racing, they've gone for Arthur Peak, which of course is Charles Peaks, probably may have already made that link, and Kamuru Sato, which is not related, sadly, to Takuma Sato. I was quite excited when I heard that name, but no, he's not related. But I think those two drivers will make an interesting pairing. I think they're both new drivers to the Formula. I think Sato was the AutoGP runner-up in 2013, and Campos Racing are back in GP2 after one of the teams dropped out, which I can't remember. I think it was something like iSport or something. They're leaving, but let's move on then to the calendar very quickly. We'll just go over that before we round out this video with our predictions. Start off in Bahrain this weekend, then we move to Barcelona, Monte Carlo, Spielberg in Austria, Silverstone in the UK, Hockenheim, Budapest, Spa-Francorchamps, Monza, Sochi in Russia, and then we finish off on the 23rd of November in Abu Dhabi. So it'll be set to be a great season for GP2. My prediction for the constructors is going to be, I think, Racing Engineering, and then for the title, I'm going to have to go with Felipe as I'm my favourite driver, but you can put your top three in the comments down below. I think I'll put Nasser first, Marcelo second, and then Van Dorn third. That could be completely wrong, but we'll have to see anyway. It's set to be an exciting season. Let me know if you're going to be watching it this year, because it's definitely been very good. If you don't know when it's on, it is on Sky Sports F1. Definitely worth watching 2014. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.